Major Dick Winters, a real-life hero. Band of Brothers documentary. Major Richard D. Dick Winters was a prominent American military officer who served during World War II. He is best known for his leadership role in the renowned Easy Company, part of the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 101st Airborne Division. Major Winters played a crucial role in several significant battles, including the D-Day invasion of Normandy and the Battle of the Bulge. His leadership and valor were prominently featured in the book Band of Brothers by Stephen E. Ambrose and the subsequent miniseries of the same name produced by Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks. Major Winters' leadership and heroism during World War II made him a respected figure in military history. In the heartland of Ephrata, Pennsylvania, a small town steeped in American history, emerged a man destined for greatness. Richard D. Winters came into this world on the crisp morning of January 21, 1918, born to proud parents Richard and Edith Winters. It was here in this picturesque setting that his journey began. Young Richard's life took a turn when he relocated to nearby Lancaster at the tender age of 8. As he grew, he pursued his education with fervor, ultimately donning the graduation cap of Lancaster Boys High School in 1937. His thirst for knowledge led him to Franklin and Marshall College, where his academic prowess shone brightly. At Franklin and Marshall, Winters was more than a diligent scholar. He embraced the camaraderie of Delta Sigma Phi fraternity and the thrill of intramural football and basketball, all while belonging to the Upsilon chapter. Wrestling, his beloved sport, had to take a backseat to his studies and part-time jobs, which he diligently juggled to pave his path through college. In 1941, he stood atop the academic mountain of the business college. But the winds of history were shifting, and the clouds of war loomed over Europe. Answering the call of duty, Richard Winters enlisted in the U.S. Army on August 25, 1941, seeking to expedite his service. Basic training unfolded at Camp Croft, South Carolina, where he honed his soldierly skills. While his battalion set sail for Panama, he stayed behind, training the next wave of eager draftees and volunteers. April 1942 brought a pivotal moment to Winters' journey. He was chosen to attend officer candidate school at Fort Benning, Georgia, an institution where destiny would intertwine him with a lifelong friend, Lewis Nixon. On July 2, 1942, Second Lieutenant Winters emerged, a testament to his dedication. Amidst the rigors of officer training, Winters found his true calling, the Parachute Infantry. With newfound purpose, he returned to Camp Croft, molding yet another group of recruits as parachute positions remained elusive. But the fates smiled upon him 5 weeks later, granting orders to join the hallowed ranks of the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment at Camp Toccoa, Georgia, formerly known as Camp Toombs. In the midst of a sweltering August in 1942, Richard Winters arrived at Camp Toccoa, Georgia, ready to embrace his role in history. His assignment led him to Company E, 2nd Battalion, 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, PIR, where he fell under the command of 1st Lieutenant Herbert Sobel. Company E, fondly known as Easy Company, in the Joint Army-Navy phonetic alphabet of the time, was where Winters was destined to prove himself. Initially, Winters assumed the mantle of a platoon leader, responsible for the 2nd Platoon. However, in October 1942, his potential was recognized, and he ascended to the rank of 1st Lieutenant, taking on the role of acting company executive officer, though this appointment wouldn't be officially confirmed until May 1943. The 506 PIR was a pioneering unit, the first to undergo airborne training as a cohesive entity. The trials and tribulations of Toccoa were etched into history as the crucible that forged these men. With limited prior military experience, the training was rigorous, resulting in significant personnel attrition. Out of the 500 officers who volunteered, only 148 emerged triumphant. For the enlisted men, the odds were equally daunting, with a mere 1,800 selected from a pool of 5,300 willing volunteers. In a pivotal moment on June 10, 1943, the 506 PIR was officially attached to the illustrious 101st Airborne Division. Later that year, they embarked on the SS Samaria, sailing for England shores and arriving in Liverpool on September 15, 1943. Their new home became Aldbourne in Wiltshire, where an intensive training regiment awaited them, preparing the regiment for the looming invasion of Europe planned for 1944. As autumn leaves began to fall over Aldbourne in November-December 1943, tensions between Winters and Sobel reached a boiling point. Winters had harbored doubts about Sobel's leadership abilities for some time, while the enlisted men under their command began to rally behind Winters, recognizing his competence. The situation spiraled when Sobel attempted to bring formal charges against Winters for failing to obey an order. Winters, believing the punishment to be unjust, demanded a court-martial to settle the matter. When the battalion commander set aside Winters' punishment, Sobel persisted, lodging fresh charges the very next day. Amidst the investigation, Winters found himself transferred to Headquarters Company, bestowed with the unusual role of battalion mess officer. This chapter marked a crucial juncture in the journey of Easy Company, setting the stage for the remarkable trials and triumphs that awaited them on the battlefields of Europe. In the wake of these events, Richard Winters found himself entangled in a pivotal juncture within Easy Company's narrative. Despite his attempts to mediate, a group of the company's non-commissioned officers, NCOs, confronted Regimental Commander Colonel Robert Sink. They presented him with an ultimatum: either replace Lieutenant Sobel or witness the forfeiture of their stripes. Colonel Sink, unswayed by their demands, responded decisively. Several of the NCOs faced demotion and transfer out of the company. Nevertheless, Colonel Sink recognized the pressing need for change. Sobel's leadership had reached its limit, and it was time for a shift. Sobel was reassigned to lead a newly formed parachute training school. Winters' court-martial was set aside, allowing him to return to Easy Company, this time as the platoon leader of the 1st Platoon. In the early months of 1944, First Lieutenant Thomas Meehan III assumed command of Easy Company, guiding them through their final preparations for the impending Normandy invasion. The defining moment arrived on June 6, 1944, as the C-47 Skytrain transport carrying the company headquarters was hit by German anti-aircraft fire at around 1:15 a.m. The devastating attack claimed the lives of everyone on board. Winters, alongside his fellow paratroopers, took the harrowing plunge into the night, landing safely near Sainte-Mère-Église. Despite the chaos of the drop and the loss of his weapon, Winters remained resolute. He swiftly gathered a group of paratroopers, even including members of the 82nd Airborne, and led them towards their assigned objective near Sainte-Marie-du-Mont. The fate of Lieutenant Meehan remained unknown, leaving Winters as the de facto commanding officer of Easy Company throughout the Normandy campaign. On that fateful day, Winters orchestrated a daring attack that would etch his name in the annals of military history. His mission, to obliterate a battery of menacing German 105 mm howitzers positioned menacingly along the causeways leading away from Utah Beach. The Americans estimated that the guns were guarded by approximately one platoon of 50 German troops, while Winters had a mere 13 men at his disposal. This legendary confrontation south of the village of Le Grand Chemin came to be known as the Brecourt Manor Assault. It would later serve as a textbook example of an assault on a fortified position, even finding its place in the curriculum at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. In addition to dismantling the battery, Winters seized a valuable map detailing German gun emplacements in the Utah Beach area. As the summer sun warmed the battlefields of 1944, Richard Winters received news that he had ascended to the rank of captain on July 1st. The very next day, a momentous occasion unfolded when General Omar N. Bradley, then the commanding general of the First Army, presented Winters with the prestigious Distinguished Service Cross. It was a recognition of valor earned through trials of fire and iron will. With their laurels firmly in hand, the 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment, PIR, departed the fields of France and returned to their familiar base in Aldbourne, England. Reorganization was in the air, a brief respite before their next rendezvous with destiny. In September of 1944, the 506 PIR embarked on Operation Market Garden, an audacious airborne endeavor set in the picturesque landscapes of the Netherlands. Their parachutes once again carried them into the heart of the action, but the perils of war were unrelenting. On October 5, 1944, the enemy's shadow loomed large as a German force assailed the flank of the 2nd Battalion. Meanwhile, a patrol from Easy Company found themselves in harm's way, with 4 of their own wounded. These brave men, upon returning to the headquarters, conveyed news of a sizable German contingent at a crossroads, just over 1,000 yards east of the company command post. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Winters rallied a squad from the 1st Platoon and embarked on a perilous journey towards the crossroads. There, they bore witness to a German machine gun relentlessly firing southward, threatening the battalion headquarters. Winters, with characteristic resolve, led his squad in a daring assault on the enemy's machine gun crew. Their victory was short-lived as they came under fire from a German position across the way. Estimating the enemy's strength to be at least a platoon, Winters called for reinforcements, summoning the remainder of the 1st Platoon to his side. Little did they know they were facing an imposing force of around 300 Germans. On October 9th, Winters assumed the role of battalion executive officer, an esteemed position typically held by a major, yet Winters filled it with the heart of a captain. The winds of fate shifted dramatically on December 16, 1944, as the Germans launched a fierce counter-offensive in Belgium, igniting what would be known as the Battle of the Bulge. The 101st Airborne, relocated to the Bastogne area on December 18th, with Winters still serving as executive officer of the 2nd Battalion, found themselves in the crucible of combat. They stood resolute, blocking a monumental clash with 15 formidable German divisions, backed by relentless artillery and armored might. It was nearly a week of unyielding struggle before the U.S. Third Army managed to pierce the encircling German lines, offering the beleaguered defenders a glimmer of hope. Relieved but undeterred, the 2nd Battalion launched an offensive on Foy on January 9, 1945. On March 8th of the same year, as the battalion relocated to Haguenau, a new chapter emerged in Winters' journey. He received a well-deserved promotion to major and soon assumed the role of acting battalion commander of the 2nd Battalion when Lieutenant Colonel Strayer ascended to the regimental staff. 2nd Battalion saw little combat after this. As the calendar pages turned to April, the 2nd Battalion found itself shouldering defensive duties along the Rhine's storied banks. The unfolding of events carried them to Bavaria later in the month, where the alpine terrain whispered tales of impending triumph. In the early days of May, orders from the highest echelons of command beckoned the 101st Airborne Division to seize the iconic Berchtesgaden. The 2nd Battalion, with resolve in their hearts and the echoes of surrendering German soldiers in their ears, embarked from Thalheim, Germany. They blazed the trail towards the Alpine retreat, an ascent filled with determination, and by the stroke of noon on May 5, 1945, they stood as the vanguard in the town they had long sought to conquer. There they remained, steadfast sentinels, when the tumultuous chapter of war drew to its final close on May 8, 1945. As the dust settled, the echoes of battle faded. Richard Winters stood on the precipice of a new phase of duty. With the cessation of hostilities, Winters found himself amidst the intricate dance of occupation and demobilization in the European theater. Even though he had accrued enough points to make his triumphant return to the United States, duty called him to stay on the continent. The prospect of a regular commission was extended to him, a reflection of his remarkable leadership, yet he declined with characteristic humility. The journey homeward began on November 4, 1945, as he embarked from the port of Marseilles aboard the Worcester Victory. Although his separation from the Army occurred on November 29, 1945, it wasn't until January 22, 1946, that he was officially discharged, remaining on terminal leave until then. The pages of valor had not yet closed for Winters. His indomitable spirit, symbolized by his leadership at Brecourt Manor, earned him a recommendation for Medal of Honor. However, due to the stringent quota system, allowing only one recipient per division, and with Lieutenant Colonel Robert G. Cole having already been honored, the recommendation was humbly accepted as the Distinguished Service Cross, the second highest accolade for valor in the U.S. Army. A campaign to secure the Medal of Honor for Winters was set in motion after the release of the renowned Band of Brothers television miniseries. Yet, despite earnest efforts, this endeavor had not borne fruit at the time. In the annals of Congress, Republican Tim Holden introduced H.R. 3121, 111th, a bill advocating for the awarding of the Medal of Honor to Richard D. Winters for his heroic actions on June 6, 1944, in Normandy, France, as an officer in the 101st Airborne Division. This bill was referred to the House Armed Services Committee and its Subcommittee on Military Personnel, marking a testament to Winters' enduring legacy. As the final curtain fell on World War II's European theater, Richard Winters embarked on a new chapter in his life. He entered the realm of post-war industry, working alongside his wartime comrade, Captain Lewis Nixon, at the Nixon Nitration Works of Edison, New Jersey. Over time, Winters ascended to the role of general manager in 1950, a position earned through dedication and unwavering commitment. The story continued beyond the battlefield, for on May 16, 1948, Richard D. Winters embarked on a different journey, one that led him down the aisle to wed Ethel Estapy. His pursuit of knowledge and self-improvement endured through the GI Bill, with Winters enrolling in various business and personnel management courses at Rutgers University, a reflection of his unquenchable thirst for growth and knowledge. In the early days of June 1951, the echoes of wartime called Richard Winters back into action, this time during the Korean War. Orders arrived directing him to join the 11th Airborne Division stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. However, destiny allowed him 6 months to heed the call, a respite he used wisely. During this time, Winters made a journey to the heart of the nation, to Washington, D.C. There, he sought an audience with General Tony McAuliffe, his aim to persuade the Army to reconsider sending him to the Korean theater. Winters had borne witness to enough of the horrors of war, and he longed for a different path. In earnest conversation, he explained his feelings to General McAuliffe, who seemed to grasp the essence of Winters' stance. Yet, even with this understanding, McAuliffe made it clear that the Army required his command experience, a testament to the respect and trust placed in Winters. With a sense of duty and resignation, Winters reported to Fort Dix, New Jersey, where he was assigned the role of Regimental Planning and Training Officer. However, the stark reality of his position began to gnaw at his spirit. He found himself disheartened by the task of training officers who lacked discipline and commitment, many of whom skipped their scheduled classes. Amidst this disillusionment, Winters decided to chart a new course. He volunteered for an opportunity that beckoned him, the Ranger School. But as fate would have it, his orders to deploy to Korea arrived before his quest for fresh challenges could begin. Winters' journey carried him to the shores of Seattle, where he confronted the gravity of his impending deployment. In the midst of pre-deployment preparations, an unexpected offer was extended, the chance to resign if he wished. It was a pivotal moment, one that tested his resolve, and he chose to step away from the path of military service, marking a chapter's end in a storied career. Following his honorable release from the Army, Richard Winters embarked on a new chapter of life. He assumed the role of a production supervisor at an adhesive plaster mill nestled in New Brunswick, New Jersey, a departure from the battlefields that had defined his earlier years. In 1951, alongside his steadfast wife, Ethel, he seized the opportunity to purchase a small farm. It was here, in the heart of their dreams, that Winters labored tirelessly to build their farmhouse from the ground up. Together, they nurtured the land and raised 2 children, planting roots that would flourish for generations. In the year 1972, Winters took a leap of entrepreneurial faith, venturing into business on his own. He founded his own company, specializing in the sale of animal feed products, serving the hard-working farmers across the fields of Pennsylvania. In pursuit of this endeavor, the Winters family eventually relocated to Hershey, Pennsylvania, forging new bonds with the community. Winters' tireless dedication to his craft led him on a path of unwavering commitment, culminating in his well-deserved retirement in 1997. It was during the dynamic landscape of the 1990s that the world began to truly recognize his remarkable journey. Winters emerged as a central figure in numerous books and television series, sharing not only his own experiences, but also those of the valiant men of Easy Company. In 1992, renowned historian Stephen Ambrose penned the book Band of Brothers, Easy Company, 506th Regiment, 101st Airborne from Normandy to Hitler's Eagle's Nest, a stirring testament to their shared sacrifice. This remarkable narrative transformed into the iconic HBO miniseries Band of Brothers, a tribute to the indomitable spirit of wartime camaraderie. The year 2005 bore witness to the publication of Biggest Brother, the life of Major Dick Winters, the man who led the Band of Brothers, skillfully crafted by Larry Alexander. In 2006, Winters penned his own memoir, Beyond Band of Brothers, The War Memoirs of Major Dick Winters, a collaborative effort with military historian and retired U.S. Army Colonel Cole C. Kingseed. These accounts offered a deeply personal glimpse into the crucible of war and the bonds forged in its fires. Even in his retirement, Winters remained an unwavering beacon of leadership. He delivered numerous lectures on the subject to eager cadets at the esteemed U.S. Military Academy at West Point, passing on the invaluable wisdom he had gleaned from his extraordinary journey. On May 16, 2009, Franklin and Marshall College bestowed upon Winters a well-deserved honorary doctorate in humane letters, a tribute to his enduring legacy and profound impact on the world. Yet, despite the countless accolades and honors he received, Winters steadfastly maintained his humility. In a poignant moment during an interview for the Band of Brothers miniseries, Winters shared a message from a letter penned by Sergeant Mike Ranney. It captured the essence of his remarkable journey, as he humbly proclaimed, "I cherish the memories of a question my grandson asked me the other day when he said, 'Grandpa, were you a hero in the war?' Grandpa said, 'No, but I served in a company of heroes.'" On January 2, 2011, a solemn moment reverberated through Hershey, Pennsylvania, as Major Richard D. Winters, a revered resident of the town, bid farewell. He had faced the relentless grasp of Parkinson's disease with unwavering fortitude over the course of several years, a silent battle that could not dim the brilliance of his legacy. In the heart of Hershey, amidst the embrace of an assisted living facility in nearby Campbelltown, Major Winters took his final breath, leaving behind a legacy etched in the annals of heroism and leadership. True to his nature, Major Winters had left a humble request, a private, unannounced funeral service. It was an intimate gathering, a gathering of those who knew him not as a legend, but as a friend, a father, a husband, a leader. On January 8, 2011, in quiet reverence, Major Winters was laid to rest, finding his eternal rest in the hallowed grounds of the Bergstrasse Evangelical Lutheran Church Cemetery in Ephrata, Pennsylvania. Here, he reunited with his parents in the Winters' family plot, a sacred space where his spirit would forever be intertwined with the land he had called home. At his final resting place, a simple marker bore testament to his remarkable journey. Richard D. Winters, World War II, 101st Airborne. It was a silent sentinel to the indomitable spirit of a man who had served not as a boastful hero, but as a steadfast companion to the heroes who had stood beside him. Goodbye, and rest in peace, Major Dick Winters. Dick Winters. Dick Winters. Dick